Hello, and welcome back to Midwest Charge. You joined me at a rather unexpected time. It's about 11:30 p.m. On a road trip, actually. I was supposed to leave at 3:30 in the morning to drive from Florida back to Ohio for the holidays, but I couldn't sleep, so left at 11:15, and we are on the road. So our first stop is going to be Valdosta, Georgia. We ended up leaving at a 99% state of charge because the car was just trickle charging at the top end by the time I left. So I don't have a whole lot to add until then, but I'll see you at the first stop. It is midnight now, and I was just a little bit off. You can see maybe you can see it's 12:01 a.m., and according to the current drive stats, we've actually been driving for 41 minutes. So we left at 11:20 p.m., not 11:15, but that's all right. The original estimate was a 15% arrival in Valdosta, Georgia. Usually I try to stretch it to Tifton, Georgia, when I'm leaving the Lakeland, Florida area, because usually I can get to Tifton with a couple percent, but I did not get a chance to top balance the pack, so I'm not super duper confident in this pack's ability to go to 0% reliably right now. I think it could if it had to, but like I said, I'm not trying to test it like I usually do. So we're just going to continue on to Valdosta. There's also quite a bit of inclement weather. It was raining pretty hard when I left, and it's been raining on and off since then. There just seems to be some storms coming in from the Gulf, and so we've got a 5% estimated arrival to Valdosta now, and I'm pretty sure that that's not going to drop a whole lot further. We're at 85% state of charge, 210 miles to go. So while a lot of this car's efficiency is related to its aero abilities and its low rolling resistance, both of which are somewhat compromised in inclement weather, I'm pretty confident that with 85% battery we can go 210 miles. That seems like a pretty easy lift for the long-range rear-drive Model 3. Quick update, we have just passed the threshold of 200 miles to our first charging stop. So you can see here, Valdosta is in 199 miles. It looks like we are now estimating a 4% arrival, but I have found that on oh hey, there's a Chevy Bolt. On really long stretches, the Tesla route planner seems to be a little bit too worried about range loss right around the middle. So it seems like at the beginning of the trip, it's a little overly optimistic about what you'll arrive with, and then like the beginning middle portion, it seems to be a little bit overly pessimistic, and then in like the like the ending middle portion, I guess, it starts to become more optimistic again, and then usually it locks in at that point. Sometimes it's a little bit overly optimistic, and then you'll end up, 1 or 2% lower than it guesses again. So keeping an eye on it, but again, I'm really not concerned about getting to Valdosta. I just don't see how we're not going to get there. I mean, we've got 198 miles to go, 81% battery, so yeah. FSD continues driving while I continue supervising. Alright guys, I've been doing a little bit of route planning while we are on our way to Valdosta. We're still at a 4% arrival, and I think I've got a pretty decent morning cadence here. So we are going to drive from our current location in Leesburg, Florida, up to Valdosta, Georgia. And then from Valdosta, we'll charge for about 16-17 minutes. We'll go to the Buc-ee's in Fort Valley, Georgia, or Warner Robins, Georgia. And then from there, we will go to Acworth, Georgia. There's a Tesla supercharger over there, so that's another 15 minutes of charging. And I'm not sure what I'll do after that, but this seems like a pretty solid morning plan. That'll get us all the way to breakfast. 50% check-in. We've driven about 130 miles. We've got 116 more to go until we get to Valdosta, Georgia. We are now showing a 5% arrival. The road is pretty clear, as you would expect at, 1:15, 1:20 in the morning. And all's well. We're at 20% battery now. It's about 2:23 in the morning, so just about 2:30. And man, having FSD on these road trips is just so relaxing. I used to take this cross-country drive pretty frequently when I was younger, like a few years ago, not even that long ago, and I could do overnight drives no problem. Nowadays, it's a struggle. And yeah, FSD just makes it so much easier. Just takes off a lot of mental load. You know, you can just kind of make sure the car is doing the right thing. You don't have to worry about, you know, all the micro adjustments with the steering wheel and, you know, making sure the speed control is correct and all that. Not to say that it's perfect. You know, there are times when it makes mistakes, but overall, pretty solid. We are 3.5 hours into the drive now. You can see we've covered 242 miles so far, burned almost 64 kilowatt hours of energy. We started it, I think it was at 98 when I first opened the car door, and then it had just ticked over to 99%. It was doing some top charging at like 2 kilowatts when I got ready to leave. It's 2:50 in the morning here. We're about 5 minutes away from the Valdosta supercharger, so all's well. Looks like we're going to get there it says 4% now. It said 5 for a long time. I think it's actually going to be 5. But yeah, 3.8 miles to go, 5 more minutes, and we'll be at our first stop, which will be awesome because I have been in the car for over 3.5 hours now. And yeah, I need to get out and stretch and you know, walk around a little bit. All right, we are taking the off-ramp from I-75 now to Valdosta, Georgia. You can see here we are slowing down. We've got FSD enabled. This is 14.2.2.2. So that's 3 2s after the 14. We're in standard drive mode, just been rolling about 4 or 5 over. And you can actually, I don't know how easily it comes across there on the screen, but you can actually see it says standard and then charger underneath it. And so it knows that it's navigating to a supercharger, and it is going to specifically look for the superchargers and hopefully back in correctly. The Valdosta charge stop is a little bit of a weird one. The layout of the chargers is not super obvious. So there's like a little island of chargers, and you have to go around it in order to charge. I've been here once or twice before, and there was no one around. So I just charged on the other side, like you're not supposed to. So I'm curious to see how well FSD will figure this out, if it knows to, you know, go around, or if it can, I don't know, reason that out or use map data or whatever. But here we are pulling into the Inland Sunstop gas station. And right behind this convenience store is where the superchargers are hosted. So Tesla is continuing to drive itself in, and it looks like we might be going the long way around because normally you go straight. But yeah, it looks like the map data is a little bit weird. We've got a message here, out of order, stall 1A. So hopefully we don't park at 1A. And here we are. You can see we've got some switch gear, some power conversion hardware, and let's see if I can get it. That is a Starlink satellite. So presumably this station is using satellites for their internet rather than cellular. So you can see now the car is backing in. It has actually navigated around to the correct side. However, this charger is in use, right? No. Yes, this charger is actually in use by somebody who's on the wrong side. So we are going to move over one more stall real quick. I'm gonna have to do this manually. I'll just back up real fast here. And done. All right, so let's go ahead and hop out. We're at 5% battery in Valdosta, Georgia. We're gonna grab stall 1C, that was stall 1B, stall 1A on the very end there is out of order. So let's go ahead and plug in. So we should be, let's see, 1D's right there. We're on 1C, the Model S is on 1B, so we should have a full 360 kilowatts between the two of us, and I don't imagine that we're gonna be maxing that out. So let's go ahead and hop in. You can hear it, well, actually you can't hear it on the camera because the mic's on me, but it's spinning up, making some fun little noises. So we'll go to additional charging information. We're at 5% battery, and we are already at 174 kilowatts, it looks like. Max battery input power is going up pretty quickly. So it looks like the charger is giving the car everything that it wants. Let's just watch a ramp, I suppose. We're at 200 kilowatts now at 6%, so we should see here in 1 or 2%, it just shoots right up to 250, at least that's my hope. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the defog because we don't need it right now. So we're just gonna keep watching this for a moment. So for some reason, the car is asking for 210, and we are, it looks like getting 200. So I guess it's possible if the Model S behind us here if it's a newer one, or if it's just really, really low in the pack, I suppose it is possible that that car is actually requesting 150, 160 kilowatts. And so the way that the version 3 chargers work is you've got one of these little white power cabinets, and that has about 360 kilowatts worth of power, and it splits it between 4 stalls. Right now, 1 stall is broken, 1 stall is unoccupied, and 2 stalls are taken with the Model S and my car. So between the two of us, we should have 360 kilowatts to play with. And it looks like you can see battery input power is 200, but maximum power is 213. So the car is asking for 213 kilowatts from the charger, but the charger's only giving us 201. So based on the way that this is ramping up, I'm thinking this is actually a situation where the Model S is pulling full power or close to full power, and we are also trying to pull close to full power. So you can hear the cooling has kind of ramped up and is starting to kick down just a little bit because we are getting past, you know, the Model 3s don't have, or Model 3s, Teslas in general just don't have amazing charge curves. You'll, you know, peak at 250 and then immediately start falling. So we didn't quite peak at 250, but already the thermal management system is backing off because we just don't need nearly that level of cooling because we didn't hit our 250 kilowatt peak. We're actually cruising around 204, 205, which is, you know, not amazing, but not the end of the world. So you can see here, we're still requesting 216, we're getting 205, so, you know, it's fine. We're about 45, 50 kilowatts off of our ideal power limit. So let's look at our next stop here. We're going to be going from Valdosta to Fort Valley, Georgia. It looks like it wants us to charge for another 15 minutes to get there. So I'm not totally sure what that's going to be. I'm guessing probably 55, maybe 60%. It's going to be 130 miles. So I'd imagine that we're going to only use 50%, but it probably wants to build up a buffer and charge to 60. So let's go back to the charge menu. We're all the way up to 18% already, so 5 to 18 relatively quickly. Let's see, does it show how long it's been? Yeah, here we go, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So in just under 4 minutes, we've gone from 5 to 20% battery. So that's pretty awesome. Now you can hear the cooling fans are starting to rip a little bit because we are getting close to the maximum charge curve for the battery. So we kind of sat on this shelf where we weren't quite getting everything the battery wanted, but we're approaching the point where the battery is only going to want 200 kilowatts or less. So now you can hear it starting to ramp up and really just dial in the thermals of the battery as much as it can get. So now our maximum battery input power is actually decreasing all the way down just about to 200, and you can see we're only really getting about 200 anyway from the charging station. And yeah, 197 kilowatts, 196. So now we're following the normal charge curve of the car. So, you know, for about 3 minutes we weren't at full power, but I mean that's not gonna cost us a lot of time. And this is not a race; it's just a road trip. And it's nice to go quick, but you know it's not going to kill us to lose 60 seconds worth of charging speed. All right, let's do a quick site walk around here. So it's about 3 in the morning, good lighting, which is nice. There's overhead lights on both sides. You can hear the cars charging up. We got a little bit of condensation in the headlights there. There's a Model S behind us parked actually on the wrong side, but that's okay. There's nobody around, who cares? We got trash cans and squeegees, which is nice, and also free drinks on us while you charge. So that's pretty cool. Apparently this convenience store right here, if you walk in and you show them your charging screen, they'll give you a free drink. That's awesome. I would totally take them up on that, except it's 3 a.m. and I have to use the restroom, so not going to do that. But here's our 2 power cabinets. You can see this is our Generation 2 satellite Starlink, so that's going to be our internet connection for billing and diagnostic information, live status, all that. There is a cat right there. Whoop. Hi, dude. So we'll leave him alone for the night and walk back to the car. We've got 8 stalls here. This Valdosta charging stop is extraordinarily busy, like all the time. I honestly don't understand why, but we've got 8 stalls here and it is always full. There was another car next to us. There were 3 of us here, even though it's like 3 in the morning, when you would think it's not busy. But when I left from Lakeland, Florida at 11:15 p.m., this site was completely full. 7 out of 8 stalls in use and 1 down. So I don't know, what makes this such a busy charge stop, but if you happen to ever drive to Valdosta and you are either using a non-Tesla that has supercharger access, or if you're driving a Tesla, don't forget on the other side of the freeway, on the other side of the freeway exit, there is an Electrify America, but honestly, in my opinion, the better option is there is an Iona station with 12 stalls, 400 kilowatts, nice Alpitronic units, so that's definitely worth considering if you are taking the exit here. So we are at 39%, getting 120 kilowatts. That honestly doesn't seem quite right. I'm pretty sure we should be pulling more than 120, so I don't know what's going on. I think the car just didn't quite precondition in time, or I don't know. It seems to be running a little bit below its normal curve. But while this charges up, we'll just do one quick summary here. So our drive was 247 miles. You can see I actually missed the road trip reset by about 1.5 miles. But we drove 247 miles so far, so we are about a quarter of the way through the trip just on our first stop. 3 hours and 35 minutes to get here. We burned 65 kilowatt hours from about 98 to 4%, I think, 4 or 5%. And we averaged 262 watt hour per mile, which is not great. I think that's like 3.85 miles per kilowatt hour. I'll put on the screen what it actually is. We'll see how good my stream of consciousness mental math is. But yeah, not amazing, but not terrible. It was lower than I expected, though. Usually I get above 4 miles per kilowatt hour, and I can make it, all the way up to like Tifton. Now, again, that's with a 100% full battery, fully calibrated, completely top charged with every last electron in the battery pack, which did not happen this time. And there was intermittent rain, and it's been wet roads, so we've had a lot more factors that make this car inefficient. Again, this is an awesome car, super duper efficient in good weather, but like most EVs that lean on their efficiency and lean on their aerodynamics, the more aerodynamic and the thinner the tires are, the more affected the car will be by inclement weather, right? If there's bad crosswind, if there's rain, if there's snow on the ground, if the ground is wet, things like that will affect this car more heavily than a car that is not super aerodynamic. That's not to say you should get a car that isn't aerodynamic. It's just worth keeping in mind that while aerodynamics and efficiency are very important, they are only one part of the equation, and just having a larger battery is very important. I think that if you don't have a super large battery, then you could end up in a scenario where, in good weather, you might get absolutely amazing range, and then in bad weather, you're just like, man, this is like terrible, terrible range. Why is that? And that's because, efficiency works great in perfect conditions, but in the real world, you do need some extra battery. We're at 49%, and we have ramped down to 99, now 98 kilowatts. So that is, I think, about right. It seems like our charging curve started low, and maybe it was the car. But our charging curve kind of started low and then didn't really recover until 50%. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But you can see it's getting everything at once now. They are basically in lockstep between kind of the maximum power that it can get and the power that it is getting, which is pretty nice. That is the additional charging information button right there. It came in a recent update a few months ago. Love to see that kind of visibility and granularity. We have put in 35.5 kilowatt hours so far at a cost of 32 cents per kilowatt hour, which is pretty decent actually. So right now the car says we've got 7 minutes remaining to continue trip. I'm not totally sure I buy that. So we're at 51%. It says we have negative 6% arrival to Fort Valley. So that would be 57% bare minimum. So I don't know, we're probably going to charge to like 63, 64% battery if I had to guess. That seems very high to go only 129 miles in this car, but I don't know, maybe there's some more weather on the way that I haven't looked at. So let's go ahead and punch this in, ignore that, hit OK, click on the weather. That's a premium connectivity thing. And let's see what it shows. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything crazy on our route, so should be fine, at least theoretically. So yeah, I'm not sure why the car seems to be so conservative with the numbers right now, but we're just going to play it a little bit safe, which is not usually what I do, but rather not bail out and add extra stops if I don't need to. It is now 2026, I think the 3rd, maybe the 4th, but point is, it is now 2026 and Tesla needs to step up their game. We're at 57% battery, pulling a mere 83 kilowatts. That is 1/3 of our maximum battery power at just barely over halfway full. This is just not great. I mean, yeah, sure, the car is efficient. You know, it's able to use that advantage to keep up with more powerful charging cars, but man, Tesla just needs to add faster charging. All right, we have now an estimated 6% arrival to Fort Valley, Georgia. We're at 63% state of charge, pulling a mere 75 kilowatts. So let's take a quick look at the stats. We've been here for exactly 21 minutes. We've added we've pulled in 45.2 kilowatt hours from the charger. So we are going to go ahead and unplug now. We're actually up to 64% with a 7% buffer, so that's pretty solid. Go ahead and click unplug. Cable's not warm. It was just a touch warm earlier, but yeah, really not pulling a whole lot of power. It's only like, I don't know, 56 degrees outside, no sun, so shouldn't be any thermal derating from these older V3s. You can see we got a Mustang Mach-E pulling in here, so that's pretty cool. We're gonna hit the self-driving button and let the car take us out. And yeah, I like that spec, darker color, pretty nice. Parked on the end there, so he's only blocking one spot, which is very considerate of him. Just about 10 miles into the drive, and I realized now it was raining on and off all the way up to the Valdosta charger, and I totally forgot to clean off the cameras. So things are looking a little blurry. There's no issues with FSD, it's still running just fine, but I would like to be able to see more clearly. So I'm gonna have to remember to do that, hopefully at the next stop at the Buc-ee's. And right on cue, camera visibility limited. Clear all dirt, debris, or water from camera. So that's pretty nice. At least it lets you know, hey, your view is not that great. You need to clean things off. Here's the camera you need to clean, and here's why. We are 20 minutes into the drive from Valdosta to the Fort Valley Buc-ee's, and we are getting just brutal efficiency, 294 watt-hour per mile. I think that's like 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. It might even be a little bit worse. So we've used over 7 kilowatt hours already just to go 24 miles. That is surprisingly bad for this car, but that's okay. We're still gonna get there with 10% according to the route planner. It went way up from 6 to, I think, 7 by the time we got around to unplugging, and then just up from there, even though we also turned on the AC for defogging again because I forgot to turn that back on when we were leaving. But the nice thing is it looks like we're going to get to the Fort Valley Buc-ee's at about 5:06 in the morning, according to the route planner, maybe around 5:05, whatever. About 5 a.m., not p.m. About 5 a.m. So if I remember correctly, the Buc-ee's opens at 4:30 in the morning, so we should be able to get there, plug in, run in, use the restroom, and actually get some breakfast, which would be super nice. Just finished up the morning coffee, and now we've got some snack foods here. It's a little bit of a Cheez-It snack to hold me over until breakfast. We are 49 minutes away, and I just noticed that the preconditioning battery for fast charging notification here has come up. So hopefully we'll get full speed, assuming it was a battery temperature problem at the last stop. Hopefully we'll get good full speeds here at the Buc-ee's coming up, because it is preconditioning a lot earlier than it did on the way to Valdosta. I think it started like 16 or 18 minutes out from Valdosta was the preconditioning, so maybe it's taken this extra time so that we get the peak power that we were expecting. Good morning and welcome to Fort Valley, Georgia, the Buc-ee's location with 44 Tesla Superchargers. It is currently 5:02 a.m., 53 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. Please ensure that you've fastened your seatbelt and placed your tray tables in the upright and locked position. We are about 1 minute away from the supercharger, and I don't know why, but that was just really fun to do the little airplane announcing thing. So we are just pulling into the Buc-ee's, or just about to pull into the Buc-ee's, I should say. We've got a light here, just double checking, make sure we're not gonna mess with any incoming traffic. And there's the Buc-ee's. This has both a Mercedes, ChargePoint Mercedes location, which I think is 12 or 16 stalls. It's a pretty big location, in addition to the 44 supercharger stalls. So that's pretty nice. We'll just let FSD continue to drive us in hands-free. Go all the way to the back of the gas station. And from there, we will be... Whoa, that was interesting. Wonder what it's doing here. I don't think I've ever seen FSD drive in this direction, so we'll just keep watching it, see what it does. So this is technically a stop. I don't think I've ever seen anyone come to a complete stop here, but that's all right. So you can see here's the main store. So for whatever reason, we're gonna... Yeah, I don't even know what's going on, but it's doing stuff. It's basically just... Oh, that's a really cool looking Kona. It's basically just not really following the navigation, and I'm not totally certain as to why that is, but just let it do its thing and see how FSD 14.2.2.2 wants to get there. Whoa, okay, that is the first time I have seen that happen on this version. It was going to turn, and then it decided at the very last second not to. I'm sure some of it had to do with the fact that there was nobody coming, but yeah, pretty nuts. There are the Mercedes chargers. 400 kilowatt charge point units, some RVs that are parked here, and now we are at the superchargers. We've got a whole whack load of V3.5s. I want to say there's 32 of them, and then there are 12 version 3s over on the left. I am not sure where this car is going to park, but we have a notification here, out of order 4B, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, and 11B. Looks like we're going to go for the V3s. Nothing wrong with that. This car only takes 250 kilowatts anyway. So let's see if it'll just back itself right in. Just let it continue to back in hands-free here. Pretty decent parking job. Just got to back right up to the curb. Perfect. All right. Hopefully we didn't park in, I don't know, one of the like 6 unavailable out of the 44. But it looks like we're on 3C, so probably not. This is a Magic Dock location, you can tell, because it's got the gigantic CCS adapter in there. At least it looks gigantic because of how minimal the rest of the post is. We are plugged in and maybe communicating. I don't see any communicating blinks. There we go. Okay, just took a solid minute there to get going. So let's see, we're at 11% battery. Additional charging information. We'll turn off defogging, so now we can see it is all ramping up. I don't know how much it picks up in the audio, but the charging post just went full beans on the fans. Here we go. It's requesting 243 kilowatts. 244. All right, so we are coming right up to about the 250 kilowatt mark, 33 cents per kilowatt hour. And we should only need to be here for 15 minutes or less. There we go, 250 kilowatts. That's what we like to see. 127 miles from Ackworth. Seems like 63% was probably a bit much. Came in with 11% battery, so we ended up only using, what would that be, like 52%, I think? 52% of the battery, something like that. So I'm thinking if we charge up here to, I don't know, like 58%, and then take off, we should be more than fine, assuming that the car, doesn't say to leave before then. But yeah, with that, I am going to run inside, use the restroom, and maybe get some food. We'll see. I was snacking on the Cheez-Its here. These Cheez-It grooves are like pretty decent, actually. So, see you in a minute. It is actually very cold outside, and I totally forgot, but I've been outside for like 10 seconds. I gotta get my jacket. Whoops, dropped the tissues there. Throw that back in here and grab the jacket, because we are not in Florida anymore, Dorothy. Super cool little car meet going on. All right, guys, ended up picking up a breakfast bowl. It's got sausage, bacon, cheese, and eggs. So, seems like a good little way to start the day. And, whoa. I don't know, I don't think that came across on the camera there, but a police car had a guy pulled over
when I first got out of my car to charge here, and he just took off after somebody else. So don't know what's going on there, but glad I'm not a part of it. Let's check on the car real quick. Still charging up here pretty decently. Just throw my food up top, and we will check on the charging progress. Let's see, we're at 44% battery. It says 8 minutes remaining. We're doing 109 kilowatts, so a little bit on the slow side. It says minus 9% arrival, so we'll probably go ahead and add, yeah, probably about up to 58 or so. I think 58 is going to be more than enough. We're only going 127 miles. We're not going to be going any faster than we have been this whole trip, so yeah, we'll go to 58 and then we'll move on. And in the meantime, I'm going to eat some breakfast. Got a whole car meat pulling out here. It sounds pretty sick. Probably doesn't come across super well on the microphone, but cool dudes. Anyway, breakfast. Looks a lot more appealing in person than it does on camera. All right, restroom break completed. Car's been charging the whole time. I just finished scarfing down this breakfast as quickly as I could. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this away real fast. I gotta say, I'm loving the mobility of these transmitters, having a wireless transmitter instead of just using the microphones on the camera. I will say I was recently editing the BP Pulse video, and I apologize. There was some kind of weird popping and I don't know, just odd noises there. I'm gonna try to make sure that we get the audio more dialed in as time goes on, but in the meantime, hopefully this is still, a decent upgrade. So we are at 54% battery, pulling 88 kilowatts. So we've got a 0% estimated arrival right now. We're at 55%, so we're gonna let it just tick up to about 58%, and once it does that, we will take off, which should be in about 2 minutes. Should be about 2 minutes, not a whole lot longer. So we can check the current stats so far. So this session, we have been here for, let's see, 14 and a half minutes, so just shy of 15-minute charging session here. We've added, we've pulled 13.24 kilowatt hours from the battery pack, and it's cost about $11.35. So I am going to hit go, switch that to, I don't care. Switch that to full screen. We're at 56% battery now, and I'm gonna stand outside because I've got some footwear-induced lower back pain because I'm using my older shoes today for travel, because I didn't want to mess up my nice new ones. So yeah, gonna spend as much time outside of the driver's seat as possible, and we'll get going here in just a minute for Acworth, Georgia, which I believe is just north of Atlanta, if I remember correctly. So I'll have to double check that, but pretty sure it's just north of Atlanta, so we should be able to get through all of downtown Atlanta and whatnot before like 8 p.m. I mean, before 8 a.m. So we should be going through around 7:15, 7:30. So I'm hoping that means traffic won't be too bad, because we went through like around lunchtime, maybe just after lunchtime on the way down here for the holidays, and that was pretty rough. So yeah, off hours Atlanta is the best Atlanta for driving through. And on that note, it looks like we are just about done. We're at 58% battery. It's showing a 4% arrival. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug here. Cable's just a tiny bit warmer than ambient, but nothing of concern for sure. There's your little QR code for the instructions on the Magic Dock. But we are going to hop in because we don't need that. We need to go. That's what we need to do. So let me just get buckled up here real quick and then hit start self-driving, and we will be back on the road. We've got 127 miles. Just a hair under 2 hours to go until we get to Acworth, Georgia. I believe this is a version 2 supercharger that we're driving to, so 150 kilowatt max charging. But I'm not too worried about it because when I put the route plan together, this car is very efficient and can hold 150 kilowatts pretty well. So we might lose, I don't know, 2-3 minutes worth of charging time, or I should say we might add 2 or 3 minutes of charging time by doing this, but overall, it's going to have a negligible effect on our road trip, since it's not like we're stopping at a 150 kilowatt charger for every stop. It's mainly just this one. Then I think we'll do V3's 250 kilowatts the rest of the way. So should be pretty chill. I believe this is also one of the less expensive charge stops, so we'll have to double check when we get there. But yeah, see you in 2 hours. 58% was definitely the move. We are now showing a 10% arrival to Ackworth, so even 58% was probably a little bit much, but we didn't want to cut things too close on this specific leg of the trip. We've got dense fog that we've been driving in for a little bit here, but FSD continues to do great. It is really astounding what the cameras can see in the dark. I think it was like 10 minutes ago or so. I don't have it on camera, unfortunately, but I was in the far right lane there, and I came around a bend, and there was a black SUV with its reflectors covered. The car was completely off on the shoulder, and the Tesla saw the vehicle about 2 seconds before I did and initiated a lane change to get over, just in case there was somebody there. There was nobody there, but just the fact that it could see a pitch black SUV in the dark, in the fog, with no reflectors, no lights, was very, very impressive. Welcome to Ackworth, Georgia. We are now just north of Atlanta, and I think this is actually the first time I have ever driven through Atlanta, and the traffic map was full speed the entire time. There was not a single slowdown. There was no congestion. The roads were not even half full. Actually insane. Maybe not once in a lifetime, but definitely the first time, post the 2020 COVID-19 thing, that I have ever seen Atlanta so empty. It was amazing. So we just made our way through Atlanta at, 6:45 in the morning on a Sunday, and it was amazing. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Definitely way better than going on any weekday. But anyway, we got FSD taking us in on final approach here for the Ackworth, Georgia Supercharger. It is a version 2 supercharger with time of use pricing? Day of time? I don't know. I'm going to call it time of use pricing. So if I click here and I click on Ackworth, you can see from 4 to 8 a.m. it is 16 cents per kilowatt hour. Maybe you can't see it, but I'll say it. And then from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. it is 37 cents. And then from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. it is 16 cents again. So we are pulling in at 7:12 a.m., which means we are going to be getting 250 kilowatts of goodness at 16 cents per kilowatt hour, which is quite the bargain. It is in the parking lot of a Publix and an AT&T and a store that is not, a restaurant that is not open that I don't recognize the color scheme of. But that's okay. It seems to be confused because I think it wants to park, but it's not far enough back. So I will manually override, and we will just back up over the bollard here until we bump it with the wheel. There we go. Okay, we're at 9% battery. Low power mode is on. Totally fine. We're on stall 3B. We'll grab big... Wow, I forgot how much more difficult the version 2 cables are to move when it is cold outside, because it is still plenty cold outside here. But we are plugged into stall 3B, so we've got 3A right there. This is V2, so we want to follow urinal rules, which means leave a space between you and the buddy next to you if you want to get full 150 kilowatt speeds. There's only one other car here. It's pretty much empty. There's 12 stalls, so we are good. So let's hop in here and see what we got going on. I'm going to turn off our 70-degree defrost because we are definitely warm enough in here. It's actually a little bit too warm, to be honest. So here we can see 16 cents per kilowatt hour, and we've added half a kilowatt hour so far, shot right up to 140 kilowatts. So let's see. Here in the additional charging information, we can see the car is actually requesting about 10 kilowatts, 15 kilowatts more than the charger can provide. And that, well, this is what's going into the battery. This is what it's asking for. This is the total going into the inlet port. So the way you can read this is the car says, hey, I want 150 kilowatts. The battery is getting actually 135, but the charger is delivering 143. So the difference between the 135 and the 143 is going to be thermal management and other systems, mainly climate control, but all of the electrical in the car is just going to run off of that DC power. So that's what we see there, which is awesome. So we're at 12% already, and I think this is going to be a slightly longer stop because it's not that expensive, and I wanted to give myself a minute to like walk around, use the restroom, probably swing by the Publix if they're open. I'll have to double check. Maybe I can find that out real quick. Let's see, that's a Domino's Pizza, which is another great option, but yeah, wow. Closed until, oh wait, that's the pharmacy. Maybe if I select, interesting. Okay. Well, that's okay. We could field trip. We can just walk over there. So it's estimating a charge time of about half an hour, but we are going to drive from here in Ackworth, Georgia, all the way to Powell, Tennessee. So just for reference, skip. We're going to go 188 miles on our next leg, almost 3 hours to the northernmost Knoxville supercharger. And that will be our second to last charge stop. So you can see we are just north of Atlanta. So our last charge stop was way down here in Warner Robins, and then we went all the way up and past Atlanta. So we skipped a solid amount of kind of potential traffic. The two big traffic areas on I-75 that I frequently run into is, of course, Atlanta. And then this section between Chattanooga and Knoxville is a 2-lane road. And it just tends to always get congested with just lots of people traveling on it, combined with a general lack of lane discipline, is what we'll call it. But that's okay. We're going to keep charging up. We'll see if I click the little thing here, charge rate limited by charging station. Yeah, that's not too much of a surprise. So the car is only asking for a little bit more than the station can provide, even though it's technically capable of more, because this helps for compatibility reasons. If you plug into like a CCS charger, and the Tesla immediately says, hey, I want 680 amps. There's a non-zero chance that the charger will like flip out because it's like, hey, I can only provide 500. What are you doing? So not a lot, but you'll see that some vehicles take the strategy where they will actually just ask for a little bit more than the charging station says it can provide. That way so it doesn't freak it out too much. So yeah, we're just gonna sit here flat out for probably a good long, well, not a good long while, but we'll sit here for a little bit, probably until like 33, 35%. Just hold it flat out, and then it'll start to very slowly taper off. I believe the taper is a little bit less extreme when you're at a 150 kilowatt station because your like peak power level doesn't hit 250, so you get a few extra kilowatts going down the curve. But that may be wrong. I don't remember. Anyway, I am going to go to Publix now and see if they are open, if they have restrooms, and I don't know, maybe grab a snack. Probably not. The breakfast I had at the Buc-ee's was pretty solid, actually. It was a little breakfast bowl, so it was just sausage, eggs, cheese, bacon. I think that it was everything, but it was plenty. I think it was like 1 or 2 eggs in there. Really did the job quite well. And then I've got Cheez-Its. And then there's actually another bag of Cheez-Its. So, yeah, I think we're actually set on snacks now that I've kind of talked through it. So I'm just going to go see if I can use the restroom. See you in a minute. We are back pulling 98 kilowatts at 47%, which feels a little bit weak, but I don't know. I'm going to have to go back on the out-of-spec website and review the charge curve for this car. It just seems like we've had a couple instances now where it's not like terribly slow, but it seems like the car is just not charging as fast as it should. So I don't know what's going on there, but Publix was great. Shout out to the super nice cashier. They just opened a few minutes ago, went and used the restroom and grabbed a drink, and she was kind enough to use her employee discount, actually. So this was deeply discounted, which I really appreciate. So we're going to give this, I don't even know, organic cold press something or other, apple, celery, kale, collards, lemon drink a try, and I don't know, maybe it'll be good. I was trying to go for something healthier. Usually I end up eating out a lot on these road trips, so I'm trying to fix that. And yeah, we'll experiment with this. It says it's 97% juice and there's only 18 grams of sugar, so hopefully it's not too bad. All right, let's crack it open, give it a try. Forgot to shake it. That's very important. tastes like it tastes like grass clippings mixed with lemon. It's not bad. And I know, like, those two don't go together. Probably because it's cold. It's I should say, not that it's not bad. It's refreshing, but it is weird. I think I could get used to it, but yeah, this definitely has that signature healthy taste. Yeah, definitely won't be drinking that empty in 5 minutes. All right, in less leafy green news, we are up to 54% battery. Now we're pulling a mere 85 kilowatts, which again, just, it feels like it's a couple kilowatts off its curve, but I don't know. I'll have to check. But we're at 54%, and it says we have a negative 23% arrival to Powell, Tennessee. So I think this might be one of our 80%, 83% charges. Not totally sure yet, but yeah, we'll let it keep charging up, and I'm going to get out of the car and do some exercise and kind of just try to stretch out and relax and spend some time not in the seat supervising the car. All right, while we're out here watching a rather beautiful sunrise, actually, it was just starting to come out of darkness when we arrived, and we've been here for, I don't know, probably like 15 minutes. I just plugged in, ran in, went to the restroom as quick as I could, grabbed a bottle, came out. So, not that long, but yeah, the sun is rising. It is but it is a wonderful morning, and yeah, quite crispy. I am enjoying it so far because it's not too cold, but by the time we get to Ohio, it'll probably be below freezing, and then I will be sad again. So, just doing a quick look-see here at the chargers. There's a couple of these charging handles that are down, but it seems like the stations are up because they're lit, so I'm just gonna pick these cables up, and I'm assuming they fell off because the version 2, you can see these cables are super stiff, super duper stiff, because they're not liquid cooled, they're just thick copper, whoa. They're super stiff because they're thick copper cables, and yeah, they really don't have much flexibility at all in the cold, and really in general, but especially in the cold, compared to the much thinner version 3 cables. So we'll come down here and we'll grab 1B as well. Get that put up. Just like, oh, maybe not. Oh, that one's got a piece torn off, actually. Yeah, that's not gonna stay. All right, well, I guess we'll do that. That's the best we can do, because that stall has a broken clip. So here you can see all of the pad where all of the chargers are. The version 2 cabinets. Yeah, version 2 cabinets. Well, that must be the one that we're using because it's spitting out a ton of hot air. And all of the other ones are idle. 750 kVA transformer. We've got, what is that? 12 stalls, 75 kilowatts a piece. So, like 900 kilowatts, something like that. So 700 kVA transformer, roughly 750 kilowatts to the site. So this site was probably originally spec'd as a 120 kilowatt site, where 900 kilowatts of grid power was sufficient, and then it's been upgraded to a 150, so there's a little bit of oversubscribing, but I can't imagine it gets super busy here, but it is a bit of a bummer because that means you're probably limited to like 60. If the entire site was full and everybody was pulling full power, instead of getting the 150 that splits down to 75 apiece, you'd probably be splitting down to like 60 kilowatts apiece, and that's pretty rough. We're at 64%, pulling 69 kilowatts, minus 14% to Powell, Tennessee, but not too bothered. Like I said, I really need to stretch the legs. I've been in the car, what is this, 8 hours now, I think? Yeah, 8 hours now. We've been on the road for about 503 miles. This is 1.5 miles short. So about 503 miles on the road. We're about halfway there, which is awesome. So just keeping an eye on the charge level and taking advantage of the time to get some flexibility back. All right, it is 8:06. We have been here for almost an hour. but for good reason. I was actually on the phone and I ended up getting stuck. So we are at 92%, 92% state of charge, pulling only 20 kilowatts, and we have 188 miles to go to Powell, Tennessee. What happened there was I am driving back solo, but my family is taking other methods of transport, and I thought there was a mistake in the travel plans, but there was not a mistake. So I ended up having to call customer support and go back and forth, and it all got worked out. So minor scare over. Let's continue the second half of this road trip now that we know for sure that everybody's getting home. All right, we're gonna go ahead and unplug. Somehow we were like the only ones here. There was a Model Y when we first pulled in that left like 5 minutes after we plugged in, and there's been nobody else this whole time. So possibly for good reason. There is a lot of options in this kind of Atlanta area now for even just superchargers, but there's tons of CCS and other options as well. So with that, we are going to get out of here. You can see I've made some progress on the drink, but no, I have not finished it yet. But 2 hours and 41 minutes to Powell, Tennessee, and that will be our penultimate charge stop on our way all the way up to Dayton, Ohio. Hello, there is sunlight. You can see me now. Thanks to that little seasonal snafu, we've got 86% remaining here. We've been driving for about 17 miles, averaging 261 watt-hour per mile, so upper 3 mile per kilowatt hour. But we are down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees above freezing. I'm not sure I like this trend. We should probably just go back south. But in all seriousness, we are now estimating a 16% arrival to the Powell, Tennessee supercharger. So we're gonna be coming in below 20%, which is good, because then we should get around 250 kilowatts, but we'll just be on that upper threshold of being able to just barely pull peak power before it starts to taper. All right, it is 10 a.m. and we have been on the road for approximately 10 hours and 45 minutes, almost 11 hours. So let's take a quick look at the stats and where we are at. So right now we are over in Neota, Tennessee, about 45 minutes away from the Powell, Tennessee supercharger. And we have covered 640 miles so far on this road trip, about 173 kilowatt hours used, with a total trip average efficiency of 270 watt-hour per mile. That is really not as good as I was hoping. However, it's also been way colder than I was expecting. I think we started the trip at 56 degrees, and it has just dropped continuously from there, actually, in a pretty linear fashion from 56 to about 40 over the course of the first three charge stops. So it started at 56 in Florida, and by the time we got to, oh my gosh, what was the name? Acworth, Georgia, then it was down to 40 degrees. So we're just holding steady at 40 right now, and I'm assuming that's because we just continue going north. So while the sun may be coming up, we are also just going to colder and colder climates throughout the day. So this is one of my least favorite and also one of my favorite things about traveling back from Florida to Ohio, because it's a really fun phenomenon, because you can see the sun rise and it really feels like intellectually you know that it should be warmer, and yet it is the exact same temperature, and it seems weird. But also I like the warm weather, so it'd be way cooler if it just got warmer. All right, so my road trip cadence was pretty solid these first few stops, but we are kind of in a bit of a weird spot now in terms of timing. So we've got the 10:50 a.m. arrival in Powell, Tennessee. There's a Five Guys and a Zaxby's nearby. I think there may be a few other options, but those are the two main ones. And then we're stopping again in Lexington, Kentucky at 1:25 p.m. There's a Meijer and there's a Culver's as well. So I think what I'm gonna do is just have an early lunch at the Five Guys in Powell, Tennessee. And then if I get hungry, we got Cheez-Its. Good news, two things. One, it has warmed up from 40 to 42 degrees. And I'm gonna take that as good news. The other cool thing is if you have a Tesla or any kind of vehicle that allows you to run a web browser while you're in drive,
which I personally think is probably not a great idea. There is a website called TeslaNav.com, and basically what it does is it's this one guy who set up a website that allows you to essentially run Waze on your Tesla screen. So if there are alerts, potholes, police cars, and other things that go on Waze, then it will show up on your screen, and you can see it, and it even has audio alerts and everything. Super cool project. If you do use it, I highly recommend you hit the button on the top left and support the project, because it's a really cool idea, and I'm glad people are out here doing cool things like this. Welcome to Powell, Tennessee. We are taking the Emory Road exit. We're just under a mile away from the supercharger, but there's 4 or 5 traffic lights between here and the supercharger, so I'm actually going to turn this back off and fire it back up once we can see the superchargers. All right, we're approaching the Powell, Tennessee supercharger. Apparently stall 5C is out of order, so we'll try to not pick that. Unfortunately, they don't have any signage here that says that this parking is for EV charging only, so it is frequently at least partially blocked by combustion-powered vehicles, but that's all right. There's enough spaces today since it's a relatively chill weekend. So we are backing up to, I can't really read that actually through the screen. Let's just hop out and see. Ooh, 5B. That's the one that's out of order, 5C. All right, cool. So we should be good. Wow, that's it'll just barely reach. FSD did not get nearly as close as I would have liked, but that's all right. Now that we are plugged in, we'll hop back in the vehicle. We got here with 21%. 34 cents per kilowatt hour, and let me turn this off. 14 minutes remaining to continue trip. So I better get out of here and figure out my food options. I think I'm gonna just make a run down to the Zaxby's as quick as I can. BRB? If you're walking from the supercharger, I highly recommend you don't walk on the grass here. I accidentally stepped on 3 broken glass bottles and was lucky to not slice my foot open. Anyway, back to the Zaxby's. All right, we got Zaxby's has been acquired, so we are now walking back the other way to the supercharger. Last I checked, I think the car said it was 1 minute away from being ready to continue the trip. So this will probably be a hop in the car. Well, this will probably be an unplug, hop in the car, and supervise with one hand, sandwich with the other. All right, we'll hop in, put down the sandwich. You have enough energy to continue on your trip. Sounds good. Let's see what other options we've got. Yeah. Nothing in between. All right, well, let's get out of here. Gonna arrive with 13%, which is way more than we need. So, put that cable back, hop back in the car, buckle ourselves up, and start self-driving. Also, quick sandwich note here. So, Zaxby's sandwich, we did a spicy chicken sandwich, and the reason for that was there weren't really any great healthy options here. That was kind of the healthiest I could do. So I ended up doing just the sandwich, not the fries and the drink and all that, because I already have water in the car. So no need for a soda or anything like that. But yeah, it was that or Five Guys. So I figured, chicken sandwich is probably a little healthier. Just about 720 out of 1,000 miles covered. An hour and 50 minutes out from Lexington, Kentucky. And we are still at a 13% arrival. It seems the route planner has finally figured out what's going on and what we're doing, which is good stuff. We are now in Tennessee at exactly 50% state of charge at almost exactly noon. So we are an hour and a half away from the Lexington, Kentucky supercharger, and getting actually pretty decent efficiency so far, but we also just went through a significant downhill mountainous section. So yeah, we're doing more than 4 miles per kilowatt hour, but honestly, I don't know if we'll hold that. I have a feeling we'll end up back in that high 3, hovering right around 4 miles per kilowatt hour range, because we're back down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I've been keeping it a toasty 70 degrees in here. So yeah, we still got a precondition, still got to go through the mountains. and there's a 30-degree delta between the cabin and the outdoors. Welcome to Lexington, Kentucky. We just got off the exit about a mile ago, and we are just turning left here at the intersection to swing into the Tesla Supercharger station. I think it's an 8-stall V2 and a 12-stall V3 combined. So we're going to see what FSD does, but if it tries to pull into a V2, I'm just going to move it because there's no sense in us charging at 150 kilowatts when we can get 250 at the exact same station. So we've got stalls 3A and 3B. I'm going to disable it because it was going to park there at the V2s. So we got 3A and 3B out of order. So we will snag 6A, I suppose, because why not? So we'll let the car do auto park, which is a different software stack from FSD. This, I believe, is based on the same software stack as Smart Summon, if I remember correctly, but I don't know, maybe they're two separate things. Anyway, we are backing in. It seems unbothered by the old lane lines, which is cool. It totally could have done that in one shot, but that's all right. It is back to 40 degrees again. It was getting a little warmer, and then it got a little colder, and now we're back to where we were. So we're at 11%, which means we should be able to get 250 kilowatts right off rip. So let's go ahead and plug ourselves in. Get the V3 cable plugged in, 6B, and what are we seeing here? Starting to charge, 8 minutes remaining to continue trip. Additional charging information, and we can see it fly. So it is asking for 150, now it's asking for 175, now it's asking for 200, and here we go. Now we're getting just shy of a 250 kilowatt request. We're sitting right at 243. 245. Will we reach 250? Let's see. It's getting there. It's pretty close. And boom, 250 kilowatts. Heck yeah. Immediately ramping down. That's all right. At least we did hit 250. We came in pretty close to the kind of the top of the threshold where we were going to hit 250 if it was going to be possible at all. So that's not super shocking that it is already ramping down. So we've got 8 minutes remaining to continue trip. So I am going to do some quick route planning and make sure I've got the right destinations and all that. All right, now we've got the correct location punched in. So we're at 22% battery, and it says we'd be at a negative 15% arrival. So we are going to charge here all the way up to 40%, and that should be more than enough to make it home. So probably 5 minutes or less, and then we are out of here. So quick summary of the drive stats from the Powell, Tennessee Supercharger to here in Lexington, Kentucky. We drove 159 miles, burned 38.6 kilowatt hours. It was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we actually averaged just above 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is awesome. So we have improved our overall road trip efficiency numbers from, I think it was like 290 or 288 watt hour per mile, all the way down to 263. I don't think we're going to hit 250 by the time we make the last 131 mile segment home. Because this is, of course, the total cumulative, so we'd have to average, like, I don't know, 5 or 5.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which I just don't think is going to happen, not at freeway speeds. But overall, it's been pretty decent, especially considering we started at, that'd be 56 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we've been less than 10 degrees above freezing for, like, all but 3 or 4 hours of the drive. Well, yeah, actually, I think it's all but 5 hours. But anyway, we've been just a little bit above freezing pretty much the entire day. So while I'm a little disappointed in the efficiency of the car, I think that's because I'm used to road tripping in the summertime when I'm using very little power versus, you know, just kind of hovering barely above freezing. And truthfully, this car has such even cabin heating, and not just because the car's full of stuff, but the car has such even cabin heating that there were times when we were on the highway and I totally forgot that it was barely above freezing outside because it was just a perfect toasty warm 70 in the car. So, you know, overall, I think it is good. My expectations were just not aligned with the weather.
But as you can see here, we are tapering pretty aggressively on what appears to be a close to typical Tesla charge curve. I still think we're 5 or 10 kilowatts short of where we should be. 145 kilowatts at 32% seems just a little bit low. But yeah, like I said, I'll have to research that, once I actually finish making it. We're actually over 41,000 miles on the car now at first week of 2026. So I've had the car for, I think that would be 14 months now officially. I think 13 or 14 months. And overall, it's been pretty good. I had some issues early on in ownership. I think I talked about it a lot in my 10,000 mile ownership review, where there were various interior issues, and the heat pump actually failed. That was very annoying when the heat pump just completely went out and all the thermal systems ceased to function in the car. But other than that, it's been pretty good. I haven't really had any major issues. It's due for some new tires soon. So I'll probably have a video coming soon on the new tires, soon as in in a couple months, not that soon. But it's on the radar. And then I think the only other issue is I've actually had problems with the LED strip cracking. You can maybe see it just a little bit. There's kind of a discoloration there. It's hard to get the camera to focus. It's of course very obvious when the lights are off. Right now the LEDs are on full blast. But yeah. So I've got some issues with LED cracking, but I think that's pretty common for this car. I know Tesla, or at least I saw on internet forums and stuff, that a lot of people were saying that Tesla would blame it on window tinting. I specifically did not window tint my car because I did not want that to be the case, because I had a feeling this was, I took delivery of this car, I think 6 or 7 weeks after the long-range rear-wheel drive trim was made available. So this is a 2024, a pretty early long-range rear-wheel drive car, and like most early Teslas of any trim level, any new generation, it's had its fair share of issues. So I have specifically waited to tint the windows until after I passed the 50,000 mile bumper-to-bumper warranty. Because I wanted to make sure I could get, interior issues or, other bumper-to-bumper problems with the car corrected without too much hassle. Because, yes, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act is a thing. Yes, they need to prove that your modifications caused it. But, being realistic, what recourse do you actually have if they deny it, Is it going to be worth the time? Do you even have the time to go through the back and forth and the arbitration and all that? So yeah, maybe window tints eventually, but getting a little bit off track. In fact, I've been rambling for so long that we're at 40% already. So let's see, it's showing a 1% arrival. That seems incorrect, but now it's showing 2%. And you know what? Let's just send it. We have been super conservative, this entire trip, showing up places with 10, 15, 20% battery. This is a Model 3. The best thing to do is arrive dead. So let's go ahead and just take this at an estimated 2% arrival and get back on the road. See ya. 116 miles to go to the end of our nearly 1,000 mile road trip. And we are now at a 1% estimate, so I say we're doing pretty well. I'm actually very confident now that we're going to make it home no problem whatsoever. Even if it hits 0%, I do not anticipate this route planner going below 0%. So all is well here. FSD continues to drive while I continue to supervise. And honestly, it's a really nice day out. I left at 11:15 p.m., which I think was maybe a tad bit early. But I might start targeting midnight departures for these cross-country trips because it is a lot less demoralizing to not watch the sun go up and then go down, all before you're even in your target state. So yeah, it's pretty nice. We are 1 hour and 13 minutes away from our final destination, and our estimated arrival percentage has gone from 2 to -1%. But this car has buffers. Yes, I have been driving it for almost 1,000 miles and stressing the battery multiple times today, but I'm really not concerned about a -1% arrival because there should be a buffer down low.
even at 41,000 miles, and I'm pretty sure that negative 1% isn't actually that bad. Yeah, it's negative 0.8%, so we're talking probably like 2 miles past zero, which seems pretty all right. So especially because a lot of this is high-speed freeway driving, 70, 75 miles an hour. But as we get closer to our destination, we're going to start taking slower and slower roads, 65s, 55s, 45-mile-an-hour roads. So it shouldn't be a huge deal. You join me on Interstate 75 in the great state of Ohio. Okay, maybe not great state, but you joined me in Ohio. We are just north of Cincinnati, approximately half an hour from my house, and we're at 5% battery. We've switched over from standard to chill mode because it was doing 7 over, and that was a little bit optimistic, I'll say, on the range. We went from 2 to minus 1%, so we'll pull up the energy app here, and we can see the live projection is now at 1.2%. It was at 1.6 for a little bit there, which is a bit much. Minus 1%, not too concerned about. When we start approaching minus 2%, then I get a little bit worried because I did not top charge this car before I left, and I ended up leaving earlier than expected, so I wasn't able to get all the sleep I wanted, which means the car also was not fully charged. It was at 98, and it just ticked over to 95. It was doing like the 1 kilowatt trickle charge where it balances all the cells to the same voltage and everything right at the end. I skipped all that. So theoretically, there could be a weak cell, or just a cell that's not completely charged up that's going to drag down the rest of the pack at super low states of charge. So that's why I'm like okay with minus 1, but more than minus 1, I'm like, I don't know about that. So we've got it in chill mode now, so it should only be doing 2 or 3 over the speed limit. Now we're up to minus 1.1 projected, so feeling pretty good again about this, but we're at 5%. You can see we've got a little bit of power limit here, some pips on the side of the screen. I actually don't know how easy that is to see. Hopefully it's easy to see. We are just over 41,500 miles on the odometer, which is pretty cool. And yeah, half an hour, we've driven 100, and I don't know why it did that. I was looking right at the road. It's like the 3rd time it's done that to me today. This driver monitoring is a little weird. I'm wondering if it's maybe because I'm like holding the camera even though I'm not looking at it. So we have driven about 113 miles so far, burned about 25 kilowatt hours since our last stop in Lexington, and been averaging 220 watt hour per mile, which is pretty awesome. That's a little bit over 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour. I'll put the exact number on screen. But yeah, I think that makes this our most efficient leg yet, and I'm sure a little bit is me switching to chill, although I only did that like 2 or 3 miles ago. So I have a feeling most of the benefit is just from lower speed roads. Basically, since we got into Ohio, we've been in 55 and 65 mile an hour zones, so we're not quite maintaining the same speeds we were before. All right, we are at 2% battery with about 9.5 miles to go or so. So looks like we should be able to get there with minus 1%, which will be just about perfectly timed. Yeah, like I said, not too worried. We're in the low speed section now. We've gotten off the interstate, so I was a little concerned, running it down when we had like, what was it, like 2.5%? I think it was showing 2. It was like basically from 3 to 2% battery while we were on the interstate. Still had like 12 miles to go. That was a little bit concerning, but yeah, 2% battery. We don't need any climate controls. We're on mainly low speed roads now, so yeah, I would say pretty good overall. We are exactly 7 miles from our destination, and we are at 1% battery. So yeah, I think we're gonna make it. I really do. We have mostly low speed to go. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to hit 0, and we might actually hit negative 1% on this run. So we've driven 125 miles so far, 27 kilowatt hours burned. We've been in the car for just about 2 hours, and let's see, 216.1 watt hour per mile. Just a few more miles to go, and then we'll be good. We've got, I don't know how clear it can be seen, but we've got about 5 pips on the power meter there for reduced power, which is not a concerning amount of pips. Let's It's kind of normal when you're getting down into the 1-2% range. But yeah, I'll keep you updated as we get closer. This is a 55-mile-an-hour road. For whatever reason, FSD always thinks that it's a 35, so I'm not just trying to burn the juice like a madman. There's traffic behind me, and I'm just trying to go a normal speed. Well, I'm not sure if I just caught it on that clip or not, but we are down to 0% now. So we are approximately 3.5 miles away from our destination, and we are at 0%. So I am going to now turn this mode down to standard, and we will continue the last 3 miles, 0% battery, and I'm really curious if it's going to show like a -1% on there, or if it's just going to continue to show 0. I think it just continues to show 0. All right, we are wide open throttle, still good power at 0%. Just making sure everything's working out good. So now we are back on FSD, and yeah, no real concerns here. We've got 6 regen pips now. Again, I'm not sure how easily that shows up on the screen, but basically our power limit has gone from here to about there. So it's showing, I don't know, like 60% of available power or something, but plenty of passing power, plenty of interstate power still. So all is continuing to be well until it isn't. All right, this clip may or may not make it into the video. It depends on whether or not I can just crop in on only the Energy app. But yeah, you can see we are at exactly 0.0% right now, and we should get home with -1.0. Home sweet home. We have made it. It's been reading 0% for the last 4 miles. But hey, these Model 3s have decent buffer below 0, even at 41,000 miles. All right, we have made it. Let's see what we've got on the energy meter here. Nothing, okay. Well, yeah. Our general consumption over the last 200 miles, okay. Projected range, 0 miles. Nice. 0% battery, 0 miles projected range. We are at 41,500 miles on the odometer now, and this is the road trip plus 1.5 miles and plus half a kilowatt hour. So we did 985.6 miles, including all charge stops and off-highway time and all that stuff. We used exactly 253 kilowatt hours, and we averaged 256.6 watt hours per mile, maybe 256.7, near as makes no difference. So overall, pretty decent. 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour over the course of the nearly 1,000 miles is not bad at all. And now we are going to grab the charger for a well-deserved break for the Model 3. So we'll go ahead and open up the charge flap. Go ahead and open up the charge flap. Plug it in. And I don't know if you can see it from there, but it says 0% here. I'll open the window. 0%, 24 plus hours calculating, of course. And it is going to rip at the full 15 amps, which is awesome. I may or may not switch it over. We have a 16 amp charger for the e-tron. I don't know if it's worth the extra 100 watts or not, but we are plugged in, 24 plus hours remaining. So yeah, I'd say we did pretty good. Overall, this was probably one of the best road trips I've done with the Model 3. Just from an experience standpoint, leaving around 11:15 p.m. actually made the trip a lot more bearable than I was expecting. So next time I go to Florida and do a road trip, I might actually just leave at midnight and see how that works out, because it was pretty good. Yeah, so we left with 99 bordering on 98%. It clicked over to 98% like basically as soon as I rolled out of the neighborhood in Florida. So we left at about 98%, and we got here with 0%, or technically -1, but 0%. So I'd say overall this was pretty good. I think we had like 4 or 5 stops or something like that. I will put the charge stops and their oh my gosh, what's it called? I'll put the total number of charge stops and stuff on the screen here, kind of going by as I speak. And yeah, so I'll go over, I think the last piece of information is just the total price for the drive. So we drove 986 miles,
And how much did it cost? All right, I went ahead and tallied up the total real quick, and the total came out to $55.91, which is, I'd say, pretty good for, I think it was 5 charging stops over the course of almost 1,000 miles. So, yeah, say what you will about Tesla. It's hard to beat the efficiency. And that efficiency brings very attractive costs, even when it is DC charging, because, DC charging is definitely more expensive than home, except for maybe that one charger in Ackworth. That one is probably less expensive than some people's electric rates. But yeah, it's generally more expensive than charging at home, but yeah, it's hard to beat $55 to go across the country. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this road trip. I am exhausted, if it wasn't clear, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one.